Hey, hello and welcome. It's Gail Barker here of Stellar Coaching and Consulting, and it's time, it would appear, for another leadership thought video. This week, I want to share some ideas around the topic of accountability. This is one that's been coming up in my world. It seems like with increasing force, it's begging to be noticed. And it's because leadership and accountability really go hand in hand. When we hear the word accountability and we think about accountability in the context of leadership, most people will say that they absolutely think our leaders need to be accountable. What does that mean? However, what exactly is accountability? I think at its core, accountability is about responsibility, it's about ownership, it's about being aware of impact and then doing what needs to be done and saying what needs to be said to take responsibility for said impact. Too often we think about accountability in the context of mistakes. So when mistakes are made, who's accountable for those? And while certainly that is true, accountability applies when mistakes aren't made. Accountability is about how we show up and what we do and what we take responsibility for in all contexts. I noticed this week that in a lot of cases, when people make mistakes, when we make mistakes, when I make mistakes, there's sort of a default tendency to go to a place of explanation or defense, as in, why did that happen? What was my justification for making that particular choice, which may or may not have turned out as intended? Explanations are fine, and they don't necessarily lead to a place of accountability. Accountability is about ownership without excuse. This is the place that I'm coming to stand in when I think of accountability. So if I give an example, the other day I pulled into a parking lot, and while there were lots of spaces to choose from, the space that I actually chose to pull into happened to be alongside someone who was like right up against the yellow line. And because they were right up against the yellow line, I moved over a little bit, which meant that I was now taking up a spot and a bit because now I was over the line on the opposite side. As I came back to my vehicle afterwards, it occurred to me that if someone were to make a comment or accuse me or reprimand me for having parked over the other line, I may well go to the place of explanation, something along the lines of, yeah, but that person was too close. True accountability, however, would be me saying, you know what, you're right, I'm sorry, that was my mistake. Because the fact is, it wasn't the only spot available. I easily could have chosen any other spot to park in. And even if it was the only spot available, I still erred on the side of the other line, as it were. So this week, as you go about your tasks, I want to invite you to think about leadership, accountability, how you show up, what you take responsibility for, and where you resist and go to defense. And in those places, what would it be like to simply own your impact and move from there? Something to think about. I'm Gail Barker. Thanks so much. I'll be back in a couple of weeks. I'm heading off on vacation, and I'll share some more thoughts when I return. Thanks so much. Bye for now.